Guys, welcome to episode 15 of the StrongAF Club podcast. As always, I'm your co-host Nate Craig, joined by
Asim Fayez.
And we are with the hosts of the Fighters Drinking Coffee, Scott Dance and Mike Sutherland. Guys, thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for having us.
They're actually some of the guys that inspired us to make our podcast.
100%.
So, guys, been listening to some of your content. Obviously, we do a lot of gym stuff here. Kind of wanted to formulate some questions that blend our worlds and pick your ear a little bit. So, first question is, what does a hard training day look like for you on the mats versus in the gym? Is there a difference with like the intensity, structure, mental fatigue, and kind of how do you adapt to that? And Asim, this is for you as well.
Go. So like, I guess for on the mats we'll start with.
Yeah.
For on the mats, like a harder training day is gonna probably look more like, more rolling. Structured, but for the most part, we're going after it. We're actually we're simulating competition.
So like 80% or full on, like 100 kind of thing.
100 would definitely be a hard training day, but we're not usually doing that. Like when we're training, we'll probably be closer to like 80%. Sometimes it ramps up, but your baseline, I guess, like your median is about 80%. We're working, and sometimes it's all right, this is going to be 6 minutes of all just takedowns. Then we're going to do 6 minutes of just the ground. Then we'll do 6 minutes of full. Like we break it up into blocks, but for the most part, it's we're going after it. Like, and we'll segment the room a lot of the time when we do that. Like we'll have the guys who are competing versus guys who aren't. So
Right.
like you're not blending that too much, so that guys are kind of in the right mindset, competing against each other or rolling with each other. But
I kind of imagine, like, if you're going at 80%, or maybe that scales up just kind of naturally with people being competitors, is that something that you typically try to limit to maybe 1 or 2 times a week kind of thing to mitigate injury?
You can try to limit it, but it'll always find you.
Right.
certain people wind each other up a little bit more. So like some guys, like they'll be flow rolling, but they're not flowing like water, they're flowing like concrete, and they're just smashing
like
into
rapids.
each other. Yeah. And people tend to certain guys get a little more competitive with each other, and so they'll ramp it up a lot faster. But that's also why you got to be conscious of who you put with who, or who you're training with, because if you're going with a guy who doesn't know how much is 80% for them, like that 80% can quickly turn into like, maybe that guy's 120%.
Right.
Like they're going after you like it's the world championships, and it becomes a whole different thing. Now you're fighting, so you do have to be cautious of it.
For sure.
Yeah, my response is it's hard sparring with competitive people, and you're gonna both push the RPMs while trying to win points and submissions, trying to like win matches in quotes. Like on the mat, that's hard training.
Yeah.
And then, at the end of that class or training session, you should be like catching your breath. That's my answer.
Yeah, no, fair.
You know what I mean? Like simply put, there's a lot of ways you can do that, but that's what it is.
Gotcha.
You're gonna be tired.
If you're not bringing up the RPMs, it's really if you're not getting your heart rate up, like it's
Not every
probably
day.
hard.
Not every day is hard training.
Yeah.
But that's hard training.
How, out of like a full training week, because earlier in our other podcast we shot earlier, you said 6 days a week. And about how many days a week of jiu-jitsu?
6 days.
6. Out of those 6, percentage-wise, would you say how many of those are like more intense training, where like the exertion rate is higher, not necessarily the duration, and how many are lower intensity? Same question for your lifting.
Yeah. Oh well. Shit, dude, my coach is here.
I'm kind of scared to answer that.
I'm not judging.
4
implications.
for me. I'd say 4 out of the 6 days on the mat are hard training.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Would you say that's always all year round, even when you're not competing?
All year round.
Got it.
Yeah. We can talk about that some other time. Yeah.
And then lifting.
Dude, I don't even know. Like every day you make me lift. It's like it's and they're all hard
every day.
It's a thing we do.
But okay. Starting to learn a little bit about this man's methodology. I'm still learning, but you have a every training session that Asim creates for us is both strength and conditioning. So he starts off with like a physically challenging strength exercise chased by some list of conditioning sets, usually 3 sets of 3 to 5 minutes. And he'll scale that up. He has, right? Like you have, there's like I don't know, is periodization?
Waving. Yeah,
He's
periodization.
waving.
Yeah.
Dude, I've read books.
It's a private software.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey.
That's right. Anyways, it was in a book somewhere. But yeah, it'll go up, and obviously that gets harder.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I mean, fucking all of them, bro.
I kind of want to know, on that note, you're the mad scientist who's writing these programs. and
Yeah,
whatnot.
dude.
So they are competitors, they're coaches. I'm assuming, I haven't seen their programs, but I'm assuming you're doing their strength and conditioning to be supplementary to their sport. You know, you're not putting stuff in their programs that you would for necessarily a power lifter or something
Absolutely
like that.
not. Absolutely not.
Gotcha.
I think the volume of focus on the main lifts is far lower for them than what we do for our comp team for the lifters, like what Tyler's about to do. But what I first do with the athletes, and what I did with both of them, was I mapped out what days are they doing jiu-jitsu, which classes are they teaching, and is it no-gi, is it gi, are you wrestling, or are you on the ground? Because all that matters.
Right.
And then I try to build the workout around those days and level up the intensity on the days where they're like he's not going to have a hard squat day on a wrestling day.
He lies. He lies.
He just does legs every workout. If you saw his last Instagram photo, it's working.
It's all of them.
But no, so that's the, I try to wave it amongst their training, but more importantly to the main events that we want. Because they're both, you're going to start hitting your competition season really hard. You already started yours. And as the frequency goes up and we have those target comps, the big ones that we want to hit, the big majors, I'm really gearing us towards those events while leaving some space for mini tapers for the things that we want to taper into. We tapered a little bit into Chicago, but we didn't do a hard taper because we just got started. So we wanted to still build a base. So we were still in that base building. So things weren't that heavy. It was a lot of volume, but it wasn't heavy yet.
All right, when I got back from Chicago, he brought me in here and had me do the 5 minutes on the fucking Airdyne bike too. And I was like, hey man, what's your problem?
What's his deal?
Yeah, we're doing
He was like,
Tabatas in the
drive.
parking
He
lot.
goes, drive back from Chicago and come see me. I'm like, all right, I'll be there. And then he ambushed me, but it was good. I needed it.
Did you though?
And if you go on
I don't
Instagram, you
know.
see that video.
Yeah,
and actually, the video is on Instagram.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But that's actually a good segue into the next question. So your guys' whole podcast is called Fighters Drinking Coffee. So can you tell me a little bit about how do you mentally prepare for a fight? I myself has never been an active competitor in that field, aside from when I was 16.
You did a
Doesn't really
Copa?
count. I did.
Fun fact, his dad used to choke me out when I first started jiu-jitsu. He was a purple
And then
belt
you
when I
knocked my
started.
dad up.
The plot thickens.
But yeah, can you tell me a little bit about, that going into a competition and something like that, the mentality? What kind of things do you do to prepare for a competition? Or does it kind of vary?
It's interesting because I've only observed you compete so far during our training. Then you do the whole lone soldier, Last Samurai whole kick.
Yeah. Dude, good question. Okay, so mentally prepare. I think there's multiple ways you could take that, but here's what I'm gonna say. I think that was IBJJF. I'll just use that since we were talking about it. And there's going into a tournament like that, you can look up. You can see you don't have a bracket, but you can see who's in your division for a tournament. You can see who's registered for whatever your, black belt, masters 2, so on and so forth. And so you start assessing your opponents whenever that makes sense for the individual, but you got to do it. There's preparing for the individual itself, but I mean a lot of this stuff too after a while, especially for a regional tournament, which is kind of like a build up to a major tournament, like you said. It's there's an exercise in I've competed lots of times.
Yeah.
And so a lot of what you're asking, I've sort of embedded into my programming. So it's kind of
it's second nature at this
So
point.
yeah, it's kind of the habits that are required to be ready mentally for a tournament. I sort of factor that into how I live and how I train all the time. So then a lot of it just becomes all right, there's another match coming up. Because I've done the years of developing, we talked about this in our episode, a style. I know how I want to fight. I know how I want to win. The adaptations, the little things you got to do for specific matches kind of become assessing opponents and figuring that out. That's the little bit of, maybe my answer is catered towards people who've competed quite a bit more.
Yeah.
But that's that's the first thing my mind goes to is like, all right, well, I know I BJJ really well. I know how I compete. I know how I win in those divisions. I know like what my success record. I know where I'm at, like with like the dudes in my like on the whole season.
But to your
There's
point,
like three
I think-
guys that I rivals that I'm like gonna kill these guys. But anyways, like aside from that, I know what I'm doing in IBJJF, so it's like looking at individual people and kind of just that's the mental thing for me. Just preparing that. The rest of it, it's kind of like it's routine, if that makes sense.
So
it does.
The part of that I'm curious about too, and this is something I think that is the missing link between good competitors and good mat demons, is there's a lot of people we know on the mats that are good, right? But then they go and they compete and they go flat. And it's like, well, you are able to do 2 hours of open mat and crush. You're able to do back-to-back comp classes and crush. You move really well, you're subbing, etc. And then you go and compete, and all of a sudden it's like you hit a brick wall 2 minutes in. What happened? So my curiosity with you guys and the mental preparedness, but also maybe in physical, because you guys have had a lot of competition under your belts, both in jiu-jitsu, maybe wrestling as well. But you guys have a system, because it's starting to tighten up that margin of what happens on the mats versus what happens on competition. Seems like it's tightening, or it has tightened. And that's something I messaged Cam about yesterday. I was like, hey, this is the first time I watched you compete where it looked like you completely owned the mental state. Because that was the thing was, I mean, he's always competed well, but what you saw, what people saw online and when he was competing was not what we see in the training room. Because he is like this in the training room, and this is still higher than most people, but that there's a desync there. And now we're starting to see his ascend, because he's literally competing every weekend. But I think the mental part there, and I think part of that is the warm-up, because you and I talked about that literally on your drive to Chicago, was what is your warm-up protocol? But I want to know what you guys do mentally to bridge that gap, because physically you're prepared when the day comes. But I've told a couple of athletes this too. It's not the best grappler that wins that day. It's the best competitor that wins that day. Because so many people go deer in headlights.
I think it's the comfort in competition. Like what you're describing, I think people are having a hard time with the environment of competition, which is like a learned skill. And by the way, that's Cameron Hurd competing every fucking weekend. He's probably getting to that point where he's like, this is so normal to me. I mean, he wrestled for all those years too. Like the rest
just part of the day, right?
Like yeah, well, and he's got hundreds of, I don't know, maybe more, thousands of wrestling when you look at like the years of wrestling. But you bring that and that's the cool thing about wrestlers is they compete so much, it becomes so normal to them. We could talk about that some other time, like why wrestling rules for like getting people into this. But I think like the stress inoculation of competitions, like because the stress of it can cause an adrenaline dumper. It can have that like you said, you know how conditioned someone is and how prepared they are. But then if they're not bringing it at the tournament, if something's off, it's probably the environment. So I think the more exposure, the more normalizing that you have with that, like all of a sudden the gear shifts. It's just they feel normal.
So something I've noticed some academies do, and not all, is they do like simulations of like 3-minute goes versus score type stuff.
Yep.
Do you think there's value in that, or do you think there's more value in just go and spam comps, or do you think there's somewhere in the middle?
I think you got to do both.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I want to hear you have to say, Mike. I know I'm talking a lot, but excuse me. I would say like you have to have both. So I mean, some people can show up at a tournament. Like I know guys who do this. I'm jealous of them who can just show up and they're like just
Whatever.
They don't need it. Yeah, they fucking own it, man. I've always had to be like, I always have to like work my way through shit.
They can sit there, they can rest.
Yeah, dude. There's some guys just are game
chilling,
competitors,
just
man.
walk in and do it.
Yeah, they just like
What's
show up.
wrong
and,
with this guy?
What's right with this person?
Yeah,
you know
well,
what I
to your
mean.
point, it's funny. The question I asked was, how do you mentally prepare for a fight? And it seems like it's become second nature for you. But the first thing that you said was you look at the ops. You study the opponents, and it sounds like that gives you a little bit of peace of mind knowing what you're getting yourself into a bit.
It's a preparedness thing. It's like you're going in any game, you got to prepare. And like I mean, I've gone to events where I didn't do that and I did well. I've gone to events where I didn't do that and I did very poorly. And so I think like when it comes to competition, you part of going back to what you said, like people figure out what works for them. I know guys who like don't want to see what their opposition does.
Could wig them out.
It can, yeah. They can overthink things, and I think you figure out what is optimal for your competition environment. Like, how do you do your best? And some people are like, man, I don't want to overthink it. I'm going to go out there, I'm going to do my thing, and whoever's in front of me, I'm just going to fight them.
Yeah.
Some people want to go in and like they want to know their competition. Really, it's like Sun Tzu, Art of War shit. Like, know my enemy, know myself, all that stuff. But one of the jobs, this is like when people watch tape, man. Like watching like any sport, it's like professional football teams. They watch tape, they study their opposition. So it's another thing that you can do to prepare. Now, whether or not that preparation, like back to what I said, like if that exercise is good or bad for you, you got to figure that out. But for me, I think it's good. And because I've gotten into matches where I've walked right into what the other dude's best at, and I've gotten burned for it. And I was just like, fuck it, man, I'm not worried about that. No big deal. But if I'd have just looked and be like, oh, this is what he does really well, don't do that. You know, why did I let him do that? I walked into it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which means I didn't have to walk into it. I could have walked around it. So anyways, my answer to that is like, yeah, dude, like homework helps me. So, and it's, you have the accountability of like a competition forces you to like, whether you win or lose, let's talk about losing. Cause if you lose, then you have to hold yourself accountable. Like, did I leave a stone unturned?
Right.
And if you left it unturned,
You handle the
that's
medal
right.
way. 100%.
That's right.
100% agree with that.
that's right.
Yeah, if you can go to the finish line and look back at that trail you just ran and say I could have done something else, you gave that medal away.
right.
I will die on that shield. My question to you is the same thing. Do you do recon? But I'm gonna add a twist to yours because we played similar sports growing up, and they're tape-driven sports. Do you find that those habits helped you in competition? Did you bring any of that stuff over, or?
Yeah, so I do look at tape, but one thing for me is being like I have to not actually look at the person. So like I make sure not to do research on who that person is, and I have to segment it into just watching the tape.
Oh, like what they're doing.
Yeah, like actually watching what they're doing, all of that. But like if it gets too deep into because if you have like super fight stuff, people will look them up and they'll be looking at the guy on
This
Instagram.
guy's record's 25-0.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
separating separating the person from their game and just having to evaluate the game.
The
'Cause
last
it's-
name is Go Val. Fuck.
Yeah, yeah. Not having like that because it's very easy to like cross that line and then psych yourself out over like the dude's Instagram pictures where he has like a bunch of medals, and that's all, half the time that's fake shit anyways. That doesn't matter, but it's very easy to get yourself psyched out over what the person appears to be versus just seeing what they're doing. And so I think that's super important because it's easy to get psyched out if you look too deep into another person, especially if they're really good at presenting themselves.
Yeah.
So, so I make sure to just evaluate the tape, or as we talked about off air, I know most people somehow finding out from someone what a person does, getting like evaluation that way. But yeah, so like I find it very helpful to look back at what people, at what their game is and actually study their game. Cause that does help me decide what to do. Especially like I have a specific style, and probably 95% of the guys I've ever competed against pull guard. So like, I need to know, well, when he pulls guard, what's he going to do? What's he looking for?
Like, what is his grips? What is his tells?
Yeah.
For this guard pull, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So are you someone that sleeps the night before well? Do you meditate and read? Or are you the guy who stays up late because you're so amped or anxious?
Night before is usually fine.
What about 2 hours before? Are you warming up, doing your thing? Or are you the guy in the corner of the psychopath, the Dexter, if you will, that's reading a book right before they go? Those fucking people scare the shit out of
Once
me.
I'm at the venue, I'm fine. It's the lead up at home before I leave to go to the venue is usually like I'm nervous to get there, but once I'm there, like I'm very used to that environment. Like I wrestled, I've competed enough times that like the environment, I don't like that much noise. I don't like people that much, but I put on my earplugs. But like the environment of like people moving around, like matches going on, the buzzers, like that doesn't bug me. Like it doesn't get me worked up. At the last IBJJF, the guy said I was scary calm. But like that doesn't bug me. I also in the lead up to matches, I try to like mentally break myself.
Do you have a ritual?
It's weird, but like, yeah. So like I try to sweat like crazy. Like I bring my heart rate up a lot.
So you fight
like,
before you fight.
I was about
fight,
to
yeah.
bring that up because I've heard a couple of people, sorry to chime in here, but I've heard people prior to their competition actually stepping foot on that mat, they'll roll hard, like a couple times. Because same thing with lifting. First set, typically, whatever you're doing, it's not going to be your best one. It's probably not going to feel the best. By the time you're getting to the second or third set, you're all warmed up. You know what to expect. You're feeling good. That heart rate, that blood's moving. And I could kind of, when I heard that, I was like, oh, that kind of makes sense. Going onto the mat's cold versus you've already kind of gone hard a couple times and now it's just, hey, it's just another rep kind of thing. Is that something you guys kind of implement?
Yeah, I bring my heart rate up to 160 to 165, and I try to hold it.
Oh, you're scientific with it.
Very.
Yeah.
Yeah, he sends me a heart rate reading every morning.
Yeah. I send him all my workouts,
That's
the
good.
heart rates, and like so I specifically try to watch it because also it helps me be able to, because I don't have my heart rate on. I'm not watching my heart rate while I'm rolling. It lets me kind of get in. It lets me go inside. Like I'm just internalized and then I'm just rolling versus like trying to think about stuff. Like if I just take my brain out of it and just go on autopilot, I tend to do better than if I'm trying to think through stuff. Because when I think through stuff or I'm thinking, I feel like I compete worse. So
honestly, now you're saying that, there has to be something to that of training throughout the week and weeks or months, monitoring your heart rate and knowing how you respond at different zones and durations, and then simulating that in competition before in your warm-up kind of probably brings you like those reference points of like, oh, my heart rate's here. I've been here before and I know how I respond at this zone. That probably brings a level of like subconscious calmness, I would assume.
yeah, like I just try to get used to like what exactly. I'm dialed into what my exertion level is. And so like it makes it a lot easier to focus on breathing. And then you're focusing on keeping yourself moving through the match versus like, you're not going. They're like, oh shit, I'm gassing right now.
Yeah.
Like I can control it because I'm in tune with it. So I make a point to do it before the match. And like, even if it's just once, like at least I go through the cycle of like, all right, let's bring the heart rate up. Then we're going to bring the heart rate back down. And so like, it's almost like you feel like you're controlling it. Feeling like I'm in control of it helps too. So, I mean, it's probably more in my head than reality, but like that helps. Like that's how I get my mental state right, is I pretty much get to where it's like, all right, I can bring my heart rate up when I need to. I can bring it back down when I need to again.
That's cool. You're the first person I've ever heard talk about. I mean, there's zone running, which I've heard a lot of people doing that. Oh, I'm going to keep it in zone 2 or zone 3. You're the first person I've talked to that has done kind of zone rolling. Is that a thing?
Yeah, actually, I was going to ask you guys this question too, because this is something I've been experimenting with after talking to a couple of competitors. Is like, say you have an open mat of like 10 rounds. How many rounds in do you have to go or rolls before you feel like you're now at full lung capacity? Like for me, I usually do the first roll where it's like, I'm just going to move my limbs and just get everything loose to kind of feel what version of myself showed up today. But my lungs definitely aren't at full capacity. I definitely feel more winded. Then a lighter roll, and then a lighter roll. And it's usually by that fourth one where I feel like, okay, now I can sustain this for like an hour or two. Like once I get to that fourth roll, it feels like, okay, now I can just keep going. But it takes me those 2 to 3 rolls for my lungs to feel like they can actually fully expand. And then once I'm there, it's like, I can just sit here all day. Where is it for you?
I don't know.
You just go, just send it.
No. I mean, I do a warm up round. If we're talking about like like that style of training. There's a warm up round, and then I mean I pick it up, but dude, good question. It's tricky.
It's like third set on the squats.
Dude,
like that third set, you feel really good.
It depends on the training session, because sometimes like depending on, was it this podcast where we were talking about like we're talking about hard. You asked about hard training. Man, sometimes the other dude just brings the heat.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. You get ambushed sometimes, and you just like sometimes it's the second roll.
I was like, you can't get a break too.
I don't get breaks.
Yeah,
we
everyone's
don't
coming
really
after
get breaks.
We don't do breaks around here.
It depends on the training session, but yeah, if I were to put on like the open mat style hat or whatever, and you've got an hour of just rounds. Yeah, I'd say it's like if that's how we're doing it. If I'm thinking like I've got an hour of like basically
just
cardio,
scrap.
I don't know what else to call it.
Yeah.
But probably rounds 3, 4, 5. You're like, all right, we're cruising now. But I always try to like find somewhere. Maybe it's towards the end, or I mix it in. I just throw in the hard rounds. I just have to be tired.
Yeah.
I could probably stand to make that a little bit more tactical, but nonetheless, it's just like I'm going to be fucked up at the end of one of these practices. I say fucked up, you know.
Yeah.
But you're just giving it your all kind of thing.
Yeah, like there's gonna be
Not
like,
physically, but like
I think of
emotionally.
it. Or both. Maybe I kind of like, I don't know. I'll flip it around. I think of it. I try to approach that around the dudes on the mat with me, and I'm like, who are the tough rounds? Who are the medium rounds? Who are the easy rounds? And I have to have like a quota of like the tough rounds that I'm like, all right, like, and in those tough rounds with tough competitors, sometimes I'll do it differently. Some days, if you're just like wrecked, it can't if I'm going against one of like my harder rounds, quote unquote, I might say, all right, this is gonna be a physical. I'm gonna beat this dude. Well, I say that like I'm gonna try to beat this guy, and then I approach it like that. Like, those are gonna generally be really hard ones. Sometimes I'm like, all right, I have to out technique. I have to do something different. I want to be a little more tactical. I change the strategy. I change what I do a little bit. I try something different. See if I can try a different, like, I guess tactic, like a different method of approaching this person.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's like this week with, I won't name names, but like with like tougher rounds, I did different shit and it confused them. And it wasn't that hard for me. Actually, it was like a physical break. But I was like, ooh.
I'm going to do this to them.
Yeah.
And they're like, huh?
Yeah. This is also guys who I've trained with nonstop for years. Who's like, no, my shit
the
back.
wrench helps too.
That's what I'm
What is
saying.
he doing?
Well, it's just, legitimately.
Yeah.
And I performed really well. And I actually wasn't crazy tired. I was tired, but I wasn't like crazy tired. But I was like, oh, that's
Interesting.
kind of interesting. Yeah. So I'm gonna maybe mess around with that for a little while because like at a certain point, we do so much conditioning. Like I'm not even sure if I believe this necessarily, but like every practice doesn't have to be like a fucking ball breaker. Mm-hmm. You know, like at the end of the day, like at what point do I decide I have to fight smarter?
Yeah.
And not harder every motherfucking time? Excuse my, can I say that?
Of course.
Yeah,
Oh,
nice.
please do.
Please, fire
It's
away.
StrongAF podcast.
You have to have your explicit tag.
I'm not gonna censor myself, guys. But anyways, like at what point do I fight smarter? So like sometimes you gotta you have habits too with like tough dudes that you know really well that you fall into habits and like do the same thing over and over and over and over again. They know it, you know it, and it's fun. Like we all do that.
But to your point, what he's saying is, what is that saying? That
Yeah, what do you-
it's
you
always
tell me,
like,
Coach,
it's,
what do you
know,
think?
You always say like, don't make today the detriment of tomorrow or something like that. So
I probably need to write that down like on a wall.
the point being, if you're having all those hard rolls all the time and stuff like that, yeah, I mean, dude, we went through what your guys' days look like. These guys are busy as hell, and sometimes your body battery or whatever, you're not at 100. You can only give it.
Hey, all stress gets
60%,
taxed
but-
from the same bank account, man.
Absolutely.
That's a strong
Yeah,
That's a
some
strong
guy-
AF. That's a strong AF idiom, dude.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think regulating it is huge because I mean that's another lever that we can manipulate to elicit fatigue or elicit a taper into performance. So if you can like control for that, and that's the hard part with jiu-jitsu, why it's so easy for us on the weight room side and the cardio side, and which is why I don't call jiu-jitsu cardio. Throw back to what, like episode 7 or some shit, is it's an indefinite lever. It's not about how you regulate yourself because you also got an infinite amount of combinations you're going to experience in that role. You don't know their training partner, how hard they're going to show up that day. And sometimes you have to rev up or play different to protect yourself or to keep the round going because you want to be productive. No one wants a round where you're just sitting there north-south and now not shit's happening. Or you're sitting in side control. It's like, all right, let's keep this going. Let's be tactical. We got 5 minutes to make the most out of this shit. I think that's why I don't call it cardio because in order for it to be something that improves an attribute, we have to be able to manipulate it. In jiu-jitsu, you can't really manipulate it at will like we can with literally zone 2 with your heart rate, duration on the bike or whatever it is. It is cardio, but like I'm not saying jiu-jitsu is not, but I don't look at it as a way to build attribute. I think it's a way to test attribute. But it does still tax from the same bank account. So although we're testing attribute, there's some days I feel like we shouldn't have to when we're in like a skill acquisition phase. For example, one of my competitors, probably one of the more, I don't want to say smarter, but he's very tactical in how he approaches his annual calendar. And he does really well at Worlds every year. He spends half the year competing with us in powerlifting, and he spends half the year competing on the IBJJF circuit. But during the powerlifting time, where our volume and intensity in the weight room is higher, he's purely in skill acquisition phase on the mats, where he's not really doing comps, and if he is, he's going a little bit lighter, but he's trying to work on the things that he learned from Worlds, their last World circuit, and he's trying to refine things and develop new skill or refine current skill. So then as soon as we hit our last meet, which is usually around April time for him, so it's a short window for the powerlifting, and then he goes right back in the competition. Like he will be doing Miami, and I think he's competing in like 2 weeks, but he's doing Miami, and then 100% he's doing Worlds and Pans. He's able to then ramp up the intensity once that new skill becomes muscle memory. And we lower intensity in here while he lowers intensity on the mats. And then come the Worlds, we see a different version with different skill set on the mats, and he displays it at the highest levels. so many ways to do it. I think, but being able to have some kind of a regulation is huge. The issue with jiu-jitsu is it's hard to do that. It's hard, especially once you start getting going. Because, I mean, I'm definitely a victim to this, of where I go in saying, yes, I'm going to be regulated. All I'm doing is these two things. Like, in my mind, the last like month and a half, it's been only 2 focuses on the mats. And regardless of what happens, these are the only 2 objectives I'm trying to, it's a game I'm playing with myself. But every now and then you get a game opponent and they're fun. They're scrambly. And as soon as I rolled with Noah today, I was like, oh, you're going to be a fun one to fucking roll with, because he likes to scramble. I was like, oh, slow it down,
He gets
stay to
caught
the
in
game
the
plan.
throes of passion
Yeah,
of the round.
he's fun as shit.
I know.
I like him. I like
know
him a
what you
lot.
mean.
Dude, that guy, he's gonna be a good asset for you guys down the line. He has the right materials, and he has that wrestler go. But he just, even when he's tired and you're just grinding him, he just doesn't stop. He doesn't settle, which is amazing. Yeah, you show him like 2 things. A lot of people are fucked.
I think the word you said there that stood out that is important is performance. And maybe that was what I was trying to do. It's like you're trying to elevate performance, which isn't always going to be like beats the fucking hammer. Because that's cool. That's fun. That's where I get caught in the throes of passion, and I'm like,
because you're a dog.
It's fun.
Yes.
It's
But
awesome. Like, I like feeling tired.
You gotta let the dog run sometimes.
You do. You do. But it's interesting. Like, sometimes the days I feel best, or I'm like most like happy with training, is when I'm not so smoked, but I did things just better.
Yeah.
Kind of slowed.
Or
bit.
just did it differently.
You focused on executing rather than like having a fight in the gym.
Yeah.
right?
Kind of
Like,
thing.
Yeah.
I'd say that's how it was early on, was just a bull. But now it's like way more trying to be more tactical and just focusing on just tasks. Because I'm also trying to balance that with this, and then balance that with the gym and running the business. So it's like body batters running. I mean, you see that shit all the time and how little I sleep.
Sponsor
so it's
us,
like
Garmin.
I only have right? Garmin, sponsor us. It only
Do it.
We only have so much material to work with, right? Because we're already being taxed so much. Big Brother's taxing our energy system so much that it's like, where do I allocate this? So even like lifting right now, like my jiu-jitsu volume has ramped up heavily. So my lifting intensity has downshifted. It's still there, but like I haven't touched the barbell in probably 5 weeks. But it's mostly been kettlebells. And right now, since I'm on the skill acquisition there, over here it's skill acquisition as well. So like my body feels really good all the time. My cardio feels fantastic. But it's also because I'm not wrecking myself on both platforms. Both are in a skill acquisition phase. While I'm trying to learn new things here, I'm also trying to learn new things there.
Scott said it. Tax from the same account. You gotta
100%.
gotta make those
100%.
adjustments. And
Tax
quick
man
question.
And I think,
gotta balance it.
coming,
yeah,
baby.
and I think that is such an important skill to learn in just life in general as you get older, because that's what creates longevity. If you want a long shelf life or a long landing strip in the sport you're doing, and you're trying to, I think that's the issue in like the old dogma of like jiu-jitsu and lifting, where it's like, don't lift. Lifting will either make you injured, slow, or whatever. You don't need to lift, just do jiu-jitsu, more technique. Is people train super hard all the time, which creates dogs. And I will argue that some people got it and some people don't, and you can't really train that. But like, it exercises your dog, right? You're a shepherd, you're a shepherd. You're not gonna make a Frenchie into a pit. But if you do that and then you try to lift with all those damaged joints and tendons, it's gonna be difficult. So I feel like finding that dueling dance where like both are not stepping on each other's toes is like the art that most people need to master if they want to have a long shelf life.
Well, if you look at a lot of sports, like athletes in season tend to reduce the intensity of practice. Like your intensity is in the lead up to the game. And then, like, this is a little bit different of a sport, but like a lot of sports, once they're in season, if it's frequent, like you can't be breaking yourself all week and then go compete on a Saturday, because it's just, you're just going to be broken for the important part, right? Like the practice isn't the game. So like, you know, and so you have to balance it so that you're not broken on Friday and then competing on Saturday because you just had to prove that you were the tough dog in the gym, right? The big dog on campus.
It's like football practice, right?
Yeah.
Like during summer, early summer, it was like late season training, super heavy, a lot of scrims. And then you have your 2-a-day phase, which I think they're getting away with right now, which sucks. That was amazing.
We had
and
3
then
days.
3 days? Holy
Oh
fuck.
my God.
I think they hated us.
Yeah, so you do that, and then you go into season, and then how much did you guys reduce for in season? Like, you guys have your games.
We had like 1 day a week was film. Then you had like 2 days of practice. So it was like film and lifting 1 day, 2 days of practice, and then you had walkthroughs, and then it was game day. So like you really only practiced like you're only really having contact twice a week outside of the games. Like,
Speaking of football and kind of making adjustments and stuff like that, I didn't play football, but I play fantasy football. And to your point, like, I'd be like, oh shit, Devontae Adams didn't practice today. God, do I bench him or what? And a lot of times those guys will take a break from a practice or something like that so they can fully perform when it's game time.
oh yeah, those guys won't practice all week and then still play on Sunday.
Yeah, exactly.
They're just
Smart.
trying not to get beat up.
They're being smart.
They just know that you can only get hit in the head so many times. You know?
I think that's the missing piece a lot of people mess up is that last week, the last 10 days. Because, like, you're not going to get better. You're only going to recover or get worse. Like, that is it. It's a fatigue game at that point. I think people train way too hard leading up to it. And I got a lot of people that are like, I need to lift right up to the fight or right up to the comp. Like, we have Grappling Industries that's coming up. Is that this weekend? This coming weekend? Saturday? And I already had like a flood of people like, hey, I don't want to take time off. I want to lift all the way up to it. And I'm like, granted, it is a Grappling Industries. I don't really taper for that anyways. But like, we're still going to take a little bit of rest. Because the last thing we want is for you to tweak something in the weight room or just be compromised because your tissue's still recovering. And then someone cranks on it weird. And in normal training, it wouldn't have done anything. But because the muscle is compromised, now it just tore. Yeah, so stuff like that.
I got a question for you boys. All of you have spent a lot of time on the mats. Is there something that you've learned on the mats that you've taken outside and kind of implemented in your life?
Ooh.
Oh man.
Pass the mic to you guys on this one.
Oh my.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, answer yes.
What though? I don't know. No.
A
Grab
lot
a
of
notebook.
things. No, I mean, I don't want to pluralize and say we, but I think you learn a lot about yourself, like what you can go through. Like you kind of learn your limitations, but you also learn like when you get into some pretty tough positions when you're on the mat, you getting beat up, especially when you compete and you're like you kind of learn like how deep you can dig.
Interesting.
And so you kind of learn like how deep I'm trying to think of an analogy for it. I'll just call it a pocket. I don't know, but your wallet of like energy and like you learn how much you really have as a person, I guess.
Yeah, that
like,
grit. You're put in a lot of
yeah.
uncomfortable situations and adapting to that.
And I think it also kind of you kind of learn how to have like compassion for other people too. Like you see what other people go through and what, like, I don't know, you just kind of understand being a person a little bit more. I don't really know how well to articulate it, but like, you know, you're getting beat up, you pick yourself back up, you're beating up another person, you watch them get back up, and like you kind of have to like shake all that off and do it again. And so you just kind of learn how to just keep getting up and keep going. I think that was something that like I kind of picked up from just generally all mat sports. But like you kind of just have to figure out how to overcome shit. Like that's just something that you learn how to do when you are competing. You have to troubleshoot or when you're doing jiu-jitsu, wrestling, all that. Like you have to be troubleshooting everything all the time, and like you might be down, but there's a way out of it. There's a way to keep going. There's a way to get out of whatever situation you're in and try to improve it or reverse it. Like, just stop. I don't know. You just don't accept things that you don't need to accept.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's a really good answer, man. No, seriously.
I've been kind of calling back to earlier when we were talking about or I guess the episode we recorded. But like that was kind of why I like left what I was doing to go back into jiu-jitsu. Like you figure out like you don't have to just accept things, and you can go and you can have the thing you want to have, right?
Right.
So
I like that. I like that. It does, because I wasn't thinking about that, but for my answer, but it does teach you like human psychology, because you have to like learn a lot about yourself, and then you start to see patterns in other people.
Right.
So there's like a compassion to that I like. But anyways, I guess my response is like organization and strategy.
How so?
Yeah. So like think Man, I was thinking about competition, but like I'm just gonna use competition.
It's
Yeah,
the
no,
thing.
it's all good.
It's what the reason why is because I think if it, like I like the goal, and then working backwards, and then planning how you're gonna spend your time, how you're gonna spend your mat time, like what you're gonna do in these sessions, who you're gonna train with, why, what you're gonna do, how you're gonna do it, for all the reasons we've already talked about, like how physically taxed are you, how you're gonna spend like the next 6 months gearing up for an event or something that you're working towards. But I think like that minute attention to detail, and then by the way, like off the mat, like I'm not going to go out, I'm not going to do these things. Like I like the limitations and the structure it provides that makes you more organized than execute a
I
goal.
like that one.
I like that you
one
like it.
because a lot of times, to your point, if you know you have practice or you know you got a coach or something like that, maybe you're less prone to have a couple drinks the night before, and it kind of makes you just live your life a little bit better.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then like I feel like you can make that about anything.
Yeah.
Like a goal in your job or whatever it is you're doing. It's just sort of like I'm going to do this thing and I want to win.
Yeah.
I want to achieve this goal. So like, all right, like what can't I do now? Like I need limitations in my life. I'll put it that way. Like I need structure. So
Scott
So
will
I
take
like-
it all if he doesn't have this.
I will take it all. I'll have both. But yeah, dude, like I like that. Me too, man. Like I mean, if my last name is Dance, dude. Like if you guys left me to my own devices, I'd be out in Miami every weekend doing wild
Take me
shit.
with you.
Yeah. So it's like I could do that or I could do this. So yeah, man. And then when you want to go do that stuff, it feels fun. It's
Yeah.
nice. Like you make like the limitations are good. The structure, like the attention to detail, like it. I think it makes you like a focused person. You want to execute, you want to like achieve things. But like the way you like mold or adapt what you're doing in your life to accommodate that, I think that's a healthy exercise.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I
Damn.
I
That was
think-
two very good answers.
Very.
Pressure
fall
is
out.
on.
Yeah, pressure's on you. Come on, number three.
I learned how to choke people.
I think.
Blood.
Yeah, right. Pain. I think both jiu-jitsu and lifting has taught me is how to find a win. And what I mean by that is a lot of people are under the misconception that I absolutely salivated at the mouth to lift every day and to train. And that is 100% never the case. I think because I also, either Marie or I, we collaborate. I write my programs and she writes it with me. I know what I'm getting myself into. You guys kind of have to, I write it for you guys. You guys just go and do it. Whereas I'm self-imposing this. So there's a little bit of dread going into some sessions. I'm like, fuck, dude, I'm sore. I don't really want to
So
do
it's not
this.
just us.
Like, for example.
I dread every day of my life.
Yes.
So yeah,
100%.
I get it.
100%. And like, same thing with jiu-jitsu. It's like, even today, I didn't even want to go today. And Layla called me at 10. I was like, fuck it, let's go.
Yeah, we're going.
And I knew you were going to, I mean, not you, but I knew Charles was going to be there and all that. And then I saw you. I was like, all right, fuck, this is a good time.
Glad you're there.
And then every single time I go in trying to force a square into a triangle, meaning if I'm not feeling that day and I try to force something to happen that day, I always walk away being like, why the fuck did I even show up? But every single time I go in, like today, we're out late yesterday. We had a whole bunch of events. We're out late last night as well. And I go in with that same mentality. I never come out on top. But if I go in finding, okay, well, this is the version that's showing up today. What's the win? And like for me, the win condition in my mind was, I'm just going to get everyone onto a hip at least twice every roll. If I can get you onto your hip, good. Because I don't play guard. I just started playing guard. So I'm like, let me just get everyone onto a hip over and over and over again. That's all I want to do. And as long as I do that, I get my win. Same thing with lifting. If I can go in and be like, all right, well, I don't know if I'm going to squat that today. I don't know if I'm going to deadlift that today. Well, I want to be able to be positionally better, or I want to be able to at least do this. And if I hit that, I'm walking away with a win. So I think what jiu-jitsu and lifting has taught me is how to find wins on the days I don't want to fucking show up. So that way I always walk away happy. Like today, highlight of the day was that class. And like ever since I started adopting that mentality, I never walk away from a training session on the mats or in the weight room upset. It's always happy because it's like I got that small win. There's an overarching goal, but there's that small win I'm trying to walk away with regardless, especially on the days that I just like, I don't want to fucking do it today. I'm super sore. Like Sunday is my busiest day, right? This is when I monitor all the clients for all of Nova Barbell. This is when I write most of the custom plans. So I'm gonna be up pretty late tonight, but in my mind, I'm like, at least I hit that win, right? And now I'm walking away with that W. So for me, I think it taught me how to find those wins on the days that I don't want to show up.
I like that one too.
Yeah, like
Damn, 3 for 3. And you know what? We're not going to have a fourth because we're creeping up on time.
what have you learned?
I need to start doing jiu-jitsu again. Talking to all y'all, it kind of is getting
All
me
right, sales
pumped up.
pitch.
Oh,
Sales pitch. All right.
Buy
Best
now.
sales pitch why you should do jiu-jitsu. Go.
because it's great.
I think you guys
Sweaty
kind of
dudes. What else can you ask for?
No, I think you guys kind of you're.
Oh no, we're selling you on this.
What-
Hit me with the
oh,
sales
oh,
pitch.
oh, oh.
No, this is
Look at that
happening.
sweatshirt, dude. Just look at the sweatshirt.
Yeah,
you,
dude,
could wear that.
You would fill
It is
this out.
red, white, and blue.
You could wear that.
It's America.
Yeah, it's American.
Comfortable as fuck.
No, but seriously, after talking to after talking to a lot of like fighters, competitors, and whatnot, I've noticed a lot of them, you guys included, are some of the most cool, calm, and collected people that I've met, and I think a lot of that comes from facing adversity on and off the mats, kind of like you were talking about, learning to overcome that over and over again, and through that consistency, developed a confidence.
Yeah, a lot of that gets weeded out pretty early on. I think you get humbled pretty
It's
fast.
extremely humbling.
Extremely.
Yeah.
But that everyone needs that.
100%.
That's the sales pitch.
So my sales pitch
I need
to you
humbling?
as a yes, yes,
You need your ass
100%. But my sales pitch to you and anyone who's listening who doesn't do jiu-jitsu and is a hobbyist and is not trying to compete, it is by far the best networking tool I have ever found. It is the only space I have ever seen where someone like myself, a Fortune 500 CEO and maybe a past felon or whatever, officer,
I was
whatever.
going to say a drug dealer.
A drug dealer, right?
Criminal.
A criminal, if you will.
Yeah.
All
I
shares.
used to train criminals all the time back in Kentucky.
We'll have a Kentucky
100%.
episode.
was awesome, dude.
But
It was
now you guys have a common language, a common mutual respect. How many places are you going to be able to access people of different calibers and different backgrounds to be able to have a conversation with them where you have a mutual language already established? And once you start getting some colors on that belt, it's like a bachelor's degree. It is fascinating how the lingo changes and the conversations change as you move up. And I think from a networking perspective and also just accessing, I mean, you can bartend, right? You can play golf, but I can't fucking play golf. But also, now it's becoming more of a young man's sport, but like jiu-jitsu, you have every walk of life on that mat.
True.
And now with celebrity backing, with the push now in the UFC, it's getting more exposure. Everyone wants to do it. You don't know who's that guy in that gi in front of you until you guys roll, you have a conversation, slap, bump, and whatnot. And then you find out, oh, you work at that Fortune 500. Oh, you own this thing. Actually, you know what? That company you own could actually work with my company or this other guy. And now it's the most powerful networking tool that I've ever found, and it's one of the biggest drivers for me to continue doing it because you just constantly meet cool people. And the blessing we have, which is we're in the gray in our field because we're
Affiliate agnostic. That's another
Exactly,
phrase.
right.
I listened to your show. man. I listened to your
yes,
show.
yes.
I
And
study you people and I
Yeah,
know what you
100%.
say.
But it's like
Everything
being affiliate neutral there and servicing all the different gyms in the area allows us to also be able to cross train and meet so many different people of different backgrounds and seeing like where you came from, right? And then all of a sudden, oh shit, we actually know a lot of people. Or you're from Kentucky with all this other stuff. Oh, you have this other business as well, which we will get into another
Another time.
podcast.
We certainly can.
But it's like, how else would you have ever found that? Right? Like, how else would you have ever interacted with people like that? And I think it is such a powerful tool because you don't need to be in there and be a mat god, right?
Yeah.
You don't need to go in there and scrap all the time. You can go there and be casual and roll. And that's the majority of the population. You're not going to make the highlight reels, but the majority of the population isn't on the highlight reel. But the majority of the population who wants to go home and works that 9 to 5, have the family, they probably have some cool stories. So I think for all those out there who are trying to move up in life and or find a career shift, it is so much easier. It is better than LinkedIn.
You meet and you bond. You meet and bond with really interesting people. He's right. It's a great way to like, you meet and bond.
Yeah.
Meet then bond in that order. You meet them, you train with them. There's like a weird intimacy that comes with it. I don't know why I said weird intimacy, but it is a weird intimacy.
I mean, you're
It's
rolling.
not-
You're,
Dude, that's
you're
what I'm saying.
wrestling, dude.
I know.
You're pretty close.
Yeah, well, but like, if you, dude, like, yeah, you do like, I don't know. It's like, it's just so interesting. Like you, yeah,
I
you
have
do.
noticed that each school, like, there is a real sense of camaraderie and pride behind
Dude,
that school,
yeah,
too.
these guys get close, which is why, like Asim said, you get like a trust.
Yes.
with a bunch of folks.
Because you're really putting
You're trusting them.
Your
not
life
to
is like,
break
hey,
your shit and choke you.
that's
and,
true.
Like, you
Actually,
have, you have
that's
to
right.
trust these people.
That's right.
But there's a mutual respect that comes in, like, oh, we just slap bumped and agreed to do this towards each other, but we're gonna have enough self-control to not let it go too far, and then afterwards we can have a dialogue about it. And it just brings another level of dialogue that we can talk about, because we may be completely different people. But at least we have something in common we can talk about. And I would say, if I had to do a quick audit in my head of all the people that I like hang out with and or are my friends, they're grapplers and or lifters. The majority are grapplers. And a lot of those bonds are made on the mats and can be transferred off. And I've seen some insane business deals transpire because of two people meeting on the mats. I mean, I have a friend who owns a rash guard company, and he got hooked up with a rock star celebrity through Jiu Jitsu, and now they're doing big things together. It's like, shit like that would have probably never happened. They probably would have never met in any other situation. So I think something like that is why I would recommend Jiu Jitsu. You don't have to go gung-ho and start like doing comp classes and stuff, but you can at least experience it to gain that mutual understanding of like, it's a common language. Networking by far is the number one reason I'd sell it.
All right, boys, I'm sold.
I'll
try out
I might even have a gi for you. In the
God, it's on
right
camera,
now.
guys. I'll tell you how my first class goes coming up on one of these episodes.
Next one.
You heard it here
On
first.
the next episode.
We'll see about that. But anyways, guys, on that note, we are actually running on time. Can you tell us kind of where our viewers can find you all, your Instagram handles, Spotify?
Yeah, so you can find us on Instagram at FightersDrinkingCoffee. You can find me too if you want to at GetSudsy, GetSudsy.
Hey.
You can find a link to my. You can buy my.
Thorn.
You
I
can buy
love
some
Thorn
shit
products.
through Thorn, 10% off. The link in my bio. You can also find the link to our Spotify in my bio as well. And yeah, get us on Spotify as well, Apple, iTunes, actually anywhere that you listen, it's there. We put it on everything, so it's available to all of you. And then Scott.
Yeah, I mean, then it's Fighters Drinking Coffee.
Yes.
In case we didn't say that enough times.
Fighters drinking coffee,
And I'm
guys.
at Scott Dance BJJ on Instagram. I'm easy to find.
You'll find them.
And
nothing to
your gym
hide.
is
It's called District Martial Arts.
located.
It's in Arlington, Virginia, in the Ballston area.
Perfect.
I guess I should say, if you want to come train with me, you come train at Battlefield Jiu Jitsu.
There we go.
Battlefield.
There we go.
Well, guys, thanks so much for joining us today. That was awesome.
Hell yeah. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Thank
See you
you.
on the next one.